Good morning to all our listeners tuning into Hot Topic and Fresh News. Today, July 17th, 2024, we bring you critical developments from the European Union. Ursula von der Leyen, the President of the European Commission, is campaigning for a second term amidst a time of considerable upheaval. With the ongoing conflict in Ukraine and upcoming changes in global relations due to the US elections, stability is a top priority for the EU. Von der Leyen's European People's Party holds 188 seats in the European Parliament, but securing a second term requires a majority of 361 votes, a target that seems attainable yet precarious. Despite the theoretical numbers, the secret ballot could sway unpredictably as members vote with their constituents' interests at heart. Adding to the complexity, Irish Prime Minister Simon Harris has been actively persuading Irish MEPs to back von der Leyen, hinting at a strategic European Commission post for Ireland in return. Meanwhile, von der Leyen faces resistance from within her coalition, particularly concerning any potential cooperation with the far-right European Conservatives and Reformists group. The Greens, though diminished in numbers, emerge as potential kingmakers. They've been assured by von der Leyen of a continued commitment to net zero emissions by 2050, aligning with the European Green Deal. However, debates over the future of combustion engines loom large, with the ban post-2035 being a contentious issue. In sum, von der Leyen's re-election bid is a balancing act of political alliances and policy commitments. The outcome of this vote is pivotal, not just for her but for the future direction of the European Union. Stay tuned as we continue to follow this developing story. Hello, listeners! I'm your host, Emily, coming to you live from New York City.
And I'm David Newstalk, joining in from San Francisco.
Together, we're bringing you today's major stories on Hot Topic and Fresh News. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to stay updated with the latest news. Straight to the hot topics.
With the European Parliament's vote looming, how secure is Ursula von der Leyen's position for a second term?
It's quite precarious. Despite the theoretical backing from her coalition, the secret nature of the vote introduces a significant level of uncertainty. Each member of the European Parliament, or MEP, has the freedom to vote independently of party lines, which means von der Leyen must ensure she has solid personal support across the board.
Could the appeal to stability in the EU and global politics influence the MEP's votes?
Absolutely. Von der Leyen is leveraging her experience and the current geopolitical instability, like the ongoing conflict in Ukraine and potential shifts in the US presidency, to position herself as the steady hand needed. This strategy could sway some undecided lawmakers her way.
What about the role of individual member states, like Ireland? How does that play into this?
Irish Prime Minister Simon Harris is urging MEPs from Ireland to support von der Leyen, dangling the carrot of a significant European Commission post for Ireland. It's a clear example of how national interests and strategic positions are being negotiated in return for votes.
Introducing a different perspective, isn't there a risk that such negotiations could undermine the perceived integrity of the European Parliament's decision-making process?
That's a valid concern. When votes are swayed by offers of power and position rather than policy alignment and parliamentary principles, it does raise questions about the legitimacy of the electoral process.
Yet, one could argue that this is simply realpolitik in action, pragmatic and often necessary within the complex framework of EU politics.
While that's true, it doesn't alleviate concerns about transparency and the potential for backroom deals. However, the secret ballot does protect MEPs from direct reprisals, allowing them to vote in a way that they believe best serves their constituents' interests.
And isn't that, in itself, a form of ensuring that real political discourse is alive in the EU, reflecting varied interests and viewpoints?
That's an interesting point. This mechanism does indeed allow for a broader representation of views. But the question remains whether it leads to the best outcomes for the EU as a whole.
It's okay to have different views on these mechanisms. It keeps the debate healthy and ensures we're all thinking critically about the news.
I'll definitely give it some more thought. Different perspectives are what make our discussions here so enriching.
With the tensions high, Could Ursula von der Leyen's outreach to the far right and her negotiations with the Greens signal a strategic but risky repositioning?
Certainly. Von der Leyen is navigating a very tightrope. Her overture towards Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni and the far right could alienate her core allies within the Socialists and Liberals. However, she's also courting the Greens to secure their crucial votes, especially after their significant seat loss in the recent European elections.
How impactful is the potential backlash from her main coalition partners over this apparent tilt towards the far right?
It's a substantial risk. The Socialists and Liberals have clearly stated their discomfort with any deal that tilts towards Meloni. Von der Leyen's challenge will be to reassure her coalition partners that she can maintain a centrist stance while also exploring necessary alliances to secure her position.
Speaking of alliances, how critical are the Greens now in this equation?
They've become unexpectedly pivotal. Despite losing 18 seats, the Greens hold enough votes to potentially decide the outcome. Von der Leyen's promise to pursue net zero emissions by the year 2050 and make adjustments to the European Green Deal is clearly a nod to their agenda.
Could these concessions to the Greens trigger any changes in EU policies, especially concerning environmental issues?
Absolutely, and that's where the strategic element of her negotiations plays out. By aligning more closely with the Greens' environmental policies, von der Leyen not only secures votes but also positions the EU as a leader in global environmental governance. However, the balance she needs to maintain with her other allies remains delicate.
It sounds like von der Leyen's political acumen is being tested to the utmost. Would you say her leadership style is evolving under these pressures?
Without a doubt. The current political landscape requires a dynamic approach to leadership. Von der Leyen's maneuvers reflect a leader who is willing to adapt and recalibrate strategies as circumstances demand. However, the real test will be in maintaining cohesion within her broad coalition while pushing forward her agenda.
That's a precarious position to be in, balancing so many diverse interests. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out in the coming days. Thank close attention, folks, this is evolving into a significant moment for the European Union. As we near the crux of the vote, it seems von der Leyen's stance on environmental policies, particularly the combustion engine ban post-2035, is a hot-button issue. How is she managing the differing opinions within her coalition?
She's truly in a complex position. The European People's Party, particularly the German Christian Democrats, are pushing to reverse the ban, which puts her at odds with the Greens and the Socialists' environmental agendas. Her ability to navigate these conflicting demands will be crucial to securing her re-election.
And with the Greens apparently ready to support her despite their demands, does this signify a shift in their strategy?
It does appear so. The Greens, after their electoral losses, seem to be prioritizing a broad commitment to the Green Deal over stricter, immediate demands. This pragmatic approach might be what von der Leyen needs to gather the necessary support.
With such a delicate balance of interests, is there a sense that von der Leyen will need to broaden her appeal beyond her traditional base?
Absolutely. One key insight from EU insiders is that von der Leyen cannot afford to focus solely on the interests of the European People's Party. To secure a stable majority, she'll need to appeal to a wider array of political groups and ensure that her policies resonate across the spectrum.
As we watch these developments unfold, it's clear that the dynamics within the European Parliament are as intricate as ever. The outcome of this vote could set the tone for EU policies in the coming years.
Indeed, and with the vote just around the corner, all eyes will be on von der Leyen to see how she manages these competing pressures and whether she can secure her position at the helm of the European Commission once more. Thanks for tuning into Podcast_name today. We delved deep into the political intricacies of the European Union and Ursula von der Leyen's bid for re-election. It's been fantastic sharing this analysis with you. Remember to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss out on our future episodes. Your support by sharing our channel and dropping comments is incredibly appreciated.
And hey, make sure you're keeping up with us. You never know what interesting twist we'll be discussing next. Politics, it's never dull. We're here every day, bringing you the freshest perspectives. So don't be a stranger.
Absolutely, and we truly value your engagement and feedback. Looking forward to catching up with you in the next episode. Until then, Riley, stay in the loop, keep your eyes on the news, our channel's content will amuse.